Selling does not feel gross because you're weak. Selling does not feel gross because you're trying to convince someone or you're trying to, you know, pull someone and to buy a product. No, selling should feel good because you're solving someone's problem, because you're serving people, you're helping people find the right solutions to that problem. That's all selling is, and that's what honestly selling should be. It's helping people solve their problem. That's it. Even if your product is not the right solution, you still help them as much as possible because sales is a game of trust. And this is how you build trust. Let's begin with the two chairs. You see, selling is ultimately two things. And here's where the chairs come in. This is chair number one. This is chair number two, right? And in the first part of selling, you are against your competitor, which means your agenda is only one thing, which is to make them buy. So you start pushing your product, right? It becomes a war. They throw something at you, you dodge, and you're like, I have the perfect counter for this. I can't wait to make them say yes. And I will convince you, I will fight this battle, I will win this war. It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you execute multiple strategies or your better script in order to win against your client. Win against your client. That doesn't even make sense, right? And this is what 99% of the salespeople do. You look at your client like they're a target, and you look at them as if they're sitting across the table. And this is the major reason as to why you don't perform well in sales. You know what the 1% does? You shift the chair to the other side, which is you and your client are sitting together. But what are you sitting against? And you are sitting against the problem. And this entire shift will change how you do sales from this point. It's you and your client versus the problem. I'm going to say this again. It's not you versus your client. It's you and your client versus the problem that they are facing. And I want to mention two scenarios that make this extremely powerful. One is a Reddit post, another is an experiment conducted in 1954. So, the Reddit post was posted by someone in sales who approached 400 people and converted four. But even though he converted four people, so now he has four people that's literally paying him to solve a problem. He knows that the demand literally exists in the market. But even then, he still mentions that sales feels like I'm trying to convince them and it feels like I'm begging them for something and I hate it. And by this, you can literally see that he's sitting against the client because every single time that he tries to pitch, he feels that they want to leave because, yes, they know what you're trying to do. You're trying to win them over just because you can profit, just because you can get another sale. And guess what? People can sense this really well. And in the next few minutes, I'll give you a little shift that will change and ensure that you won't be in this position. Now, coming to the experiment conducted in 1954, scientists took a group of students and they divided them into two groups, right? Let's say Group A and Group B. And obviously, when they both started playing games, a rivalry was formed between A and B. And this is exactly what the scientists wanted to cause. And in order to solve this rivalry between students in A and students in B, they first tried the method of putting them together and making them share huts, making them share food. And they thought that this would work, but it did not. The rivalry grew further. Students hated the other groups present, and they was fighting over the shelter, they was fighting over the food, and the rivalry just grew. But when scientists used the second method, where they posed a problem in front of the students, and they said that, hey, you won't be having any water supply because the water pipe broke. And when this problem was present, both knew that, hey, we're not going to have water. So both these groups, students that were rivals, started working together to fix the broken pipe and to ensure that everyone has water. And after they solved this problem, they became friends and they wanted to go home together in the same bus. You see, it's not about being nice and it's not about you just talking to them nicely and being impressive. Yes, that helps, but it won't even matter if the foundation is wrong. So, here, the foundation is you need to have a common enemy. You and your client should have a common enemy. And that will not only work in sales, but that's one of the strongest factors in influence as well. You see, all the politicians out there, they will rally their people against a common enemy. That common enemy can be unemployment, growing inflation, or just the other candidate, or how he's been running or ruining things. When they have a common enemy, people just unite. That's how it is. So I wanted to leverage this fact. But here's the twist. What if I told you it's the customer that initially decides what side of the table you sit on, if it's next to them or in front of them? Yes, your words can help. And of course, words are secondary. What matters before that is the first impressions. This is in the literal seconds that they see you. They already have an opinion of you. You see, their initial judgments that they make in the first few seconds are frail and cloudy, which means when you start talking, those judgments can be broken. But in sales, you want to stack as many wins as possible in your side because it'll just increase the percentage of them saying yes. So, how do you make a great first impression? You need to be proper. This is less about them and more about you, obviously. And this is where the whole positioning of where you come from matters. In 2006, a study was conducted where a group of people were shown faces for 100 milliseconds, and in 1/10 of a second, they had formed a judgment about the person that they were seeing. That's how quick it is, faster than the blink of an eye. Your brain comes to a judgment. So, how do we fix this? This is the same mental shift that I told I'll give you. The mental shift is you need to change from I need to win. I need to convert. I need this sale. You change that to I need to help. I need to find the truth. When you make this simple shift, your entire body language, your entire demeanor changes. Your body language and your demeanor are the elements that give them the impressions in the first place. So if you changed your selling from I need the sale to I just want to help you, you're way more open. You seem way more warm and you seem way more friendly because that is what you want to do. So every time before you sell, ask yourself, can I help this person or not? And approach the whole sales from this framework. You just want to help and you just want to serve people to the best of your abilities. And before you move any further, I have to mention the different stages of awareness that a customer has. And if you play the game wrong, you'll just be increasing your chances of them saying a no. So here are the different stages of customer awareness. And this was an inspiration from Breakthrough Advertising, written by the greatest copywriter, Eugene Schwartz. If you haven't read that book, it's a high recommendation from my side. It's the best book on copywriting and marketing. That said, stage one, they do not know that they have a problem. And in this stage, your job is to ask about their world. You enter their world. You understand everything about their world. And in this stage, you don't pitch. You just understand who they are. Like you're genuinely interested in that person. Myron Golden, one of my favorite entrepreneurs and business coaches, said this. You be interesting by being interested. And this is all I want you to be in stage one. When your potential client or your prospect does not even know about the problem, you understand their world and you understand how everything in their life works, what they like, what they don't like, and you understand everything about them so that you have the data that you need. Stage two, they know the problem, but they're not aware of a solution. And in stage two, you help them name the problem. You take something abstract that they have and you quantify it. Something that you can point to, something that's fixed and that's definitive, and you can literally give it to them saying, hey, this is your problem, and I can see it and I can understand it. And by you doing it, they understand it deeply as well. Stage three, they know that solutions exist, but they don't know you. And here's where you help them understand what a good solution should do, what a good solution looks like. And guess who's offering the good solution? You. You will be cutting off all your potential competitors because when you help them understand, because when you move in this sequence of understanding their world and pointing at that one definitive problem and showing it to them that, hey, this is a problem, you can see it, I can see it, I do understand it, and here's the missing piece, here's the solution that can fix it, and here are the good characteristics of a good solution, and here's what a good solution has. And guess who has that good solution? Us. So we are the perfect fit to solve your problem, is what you should be conveying. You should show them genuinely what a good solution is, and you should genuinely show them, hey, this is our product, this is exactly what we do. Stage four, they know your solution. They know your answer to the problem, but they're not sure if it will work for them or not. And here is where you start pulling up the case studies. And here's where you start showing them proof. And here's where you build your credibility. Like, hey, other people like you also exist. And here's what they faced as well. The same problem as you. And here's how we solved it for them. Be specific and ask them. Try to understand what's stopping them from working with you and answer their doubts specifically. Don't be vague, be crisp, concise. Understand their doubt, solve it. Understand their doubt, solve it. Stage five, they know the problem, they know the solutions, they know you, they only need the prize and the next step. And here's where I'm going to ask you to shut up. Here's where you don't pitch. Here's where you don't do anything. You simply set the terms of working and you see what's favorable to them. And if you can offer it, give it or try to bring in a middle ground. Because whenever a business happens, one party is always taking more risk than the other. Ensure, if your business, that you're carrying the risk more than your client. That's it. And if you complete these five stages, the next time you do a sales call or the next time that you're selling, you will have the highest chance of converting. And if you're wondering, Hemanth, why should I even move in these five stages? I'm going to ask you this. Imagine proposing to a stranger. Yeah, no matter what fancy words you use for the proposal, they're still going to say no. It's simply because they don't know you, they don't trust you. So when you move in this flow and when you move in these stages and when you stop being desperate, is when you'll start converting the people you pitch to. Well, I mentioned about win stacking before. Even if you're doing these five stages properly, I'm going to stop you from self sabotaging by using these four questions you need to ask yourself when you're pitching. Number one, am I speaking more than they are? If you are doing that, stop. But you might be wondering, hey, Mant, but am I not supposed to convey? Am I not supposed to just pounce on them and just convince them? Am I not supposed to talk so that I can influence them? Let me tell you this. Listening is 50% of communication. But I would say, especially in this day and age, that it's more around 70% of communication. You need to learn to listen. Ask a question, listen to their answer. Two, am I one stage ahead of them? Do they know the problem? And before the problem, am I already pitching? Before understanding them, am I already trying to come up with a solution? Match the level where they're at and you lead them. Lead them by asking the right questions. Because if they don't even understand what problem they have and you just pitch to them, they'll be like, Why do I even need this and why even wasting my time? 3. Can I genuinely solve this problem for them? I understand you want to get excited. You want to convert. But here's where the authenticity and the genuinity comes in. Is genuinity a word? I hope it is. You need to know if you can genuinely solve this problem. Because if you pretend just to get a sale, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And the word of mouth from that customer is just going to be horrible. Number 4, do I need this person to say yes? Pick the people who you work with. I mean, of course, initially, if you're struggling and you have to make ends meet, but you're following the structure, even though they're not good to work with and you need the money, fair. In extreme cases, fair. But when you have a choice, evaluate. Work with people who you're comfortable working with. Work with people who you genuinely want to help. Work with people who you are happy helping, because you see, sales and business in general is a game in the long haul. You have to know how to play the game efficiently over a long period of time. That's how you win. And if you're burned out and if you're drained out by working with certain people, guess what that's going to do? You're going to dip. And when that dip happens, it's the point where others gain an edge over you. So I would highly advise, when you have the choice, work with people who genuinely want to help. Well, you should understand that some people will work with you, some people will not. But just know the next conversation is right there. It's right around the corner. Selling does not feel gross because you're weak. Selling does not feel gross because you're trying to convince someone or you're trying to, pull someone and to buy a product. No, selling should feel good because you're solving someone's problem, because you're serving people, you're helping people find the right solutions to that problem. That's all selling is, and that's what honestly selling should be. It's helping people solve their problem. That's it. Even if your product is not the right solution, you still help them as much as possible, because sales is a game of trust. And this is how you build trust. So take the chair that was across from you, put it next to you, make your customer sit, point at the problem, show them what a good solution looks like, show them that you are that good solution, and give them favorable terms of working. They're your client. Well, sales is such a broad topic that you might be feeling that this one video is just not enough. Well, I feel the same as well. I just want to share so much that I cannot fit into this one video. So, in the next video, I will give you 4 questions on how to make sure that when you're pitching and when you're talking to your clients, it's nothing but stunning. And one of them is a question that people ask way too early in the conversation and get rejected. So, if you're interested to see that, subscribe and I'll bring that out soon. Build the business. Keep this in mind. Catch you in the next one shortly.